Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Today we're going to be reading from 4th Canto, Creation of 4th Order, chapter 22. Pitu Maharaj is meeting with the Kumaras, shloka 36. Pare pare chaye baba,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
gunavyate karanu,
Guna Vyakti Karanu,
nate sham vidyate kshemam,
Nate Samvidati Kema,
Isha vidhvam siddha shisham, pare pare chaye bhava,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
gunavyate karadanu,
Guravati Kuranu,
nate sham vidyate kshemam,
Nate Samvidati Kema,
Isha vidhvam siddha shisham,
Isha Vidvam Sita Shisham,
pare pare chaye bhava,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
gunavyate karadanu,
Guna Vyakti Karanu,
nate sham vidyate kshemam,
Nate Samvidati Kema,
Isha vidhvam Isa vidhvam siddha shisham.
Isha Vidvam Sita Shisham,
Bolo.
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Buddha Vyati Karanu,
Gunavyate Karadanu,
Nate Sham Vidyati Chema,
Nate Sham Vidyate Kshemam,
Isha Vidvam Sita Shisham,
Isha vidhvam siddha shisham.
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Guna Vyati Karatanu,
Gunavyate Karadanu,
Nate Samvidyate Kshemam,
Nate Sham Vidyate Kshemam,
Isa Vidhvam Sita Sisam,
Isha vidhvam siddha shisham.
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Gunavyate Karadanu, Nate Sham Vidyate Kshemam, Isha vidhvam siddha shisham.
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Hare Hare Chaye Baba,
Guna Vyati Karatanu,
Gunavyate Karadanu,
Nate Sham Vidyate Kshemam,
Nate Samvidati Kshemam,
Isha Vidvam Sita Shisham,
Isha Vidvam Sita
Shisham. Anybody else? Alright. Word for word. Pare,
Hare,
in the higher status of life.
in the higher status of life.
Pare,
Hare,
in the lower status of life.
in the low status of life.
Cha,
Cha,
and
and
ye,
Ye,
all those.
all those.
Bhavaha,
Bhava,
conceptions.
conceptions.
Guna,
Guna,
material qualities.
material qualities.
Vyate karat,
Vyati Karat,
by interaction.
By interaction.
Anu,
Anu,
following.
following.
Na,
No,
never.
never.
Tesham,
Desham,
of them.
of them.
Vidyate,
Vidyate,
exist.
exists.
Kshevam,
Shema,
correction.
correction.
Isha,
Isha,
the supreme lord.
supreme word.
Vidhvam Siddha,
Vidhamsita,
destroyed.
destroyed.
Asisham,
Ashisham,
of the blessings.
of the blessings.
Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. We accept as blessings different states of higher life, distinguishing them from lower states of life. But we should know that such distinctions exist only in relation to the interchange of the modes of material nature. Actually, these states of life have no permanent existence, for all of them will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller. Please repeat after me. We accept as blessings
We accept
accept as
as blessings
blessings
different states of higher life,
different states of higher life,
distinguishing them
distinguishing them
from lower states of life.
from lower states of life.
But we should know that
But we should know that
such distinctions exist only
such
distinctions exist only
in relation to the interchange of
in relation to the interchange of
the modes of material
the
nature.
modes of material nature.
Actually, these states of life
Actually, these states of life
have no permanent
have
existence,
no permanent existence.
for all of them will be destroyed
For all of them will be destroyed
by the Supreme Controller.
by the Supreme Controller.
Purport. In our material existence, we accept a higher form of life as a blessing and a lower form as a curse. This distinction of higher and lower only exists as long as the different material qualities, gunas, interact. In other words, by our good activities, we are elevated to the higher planetary systems or to a higher standard of life, good education, beautiful body, etc. These are the results of pious activities. Similarly, by impious activities, we remain illiterate, get ugly bodies, a poor standard of living, etc. All these different states of life are under the laws of material nature, through the interaction of the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. However, all these qualities will cease to act at the time of the dissolution of the entire cosmic manifestation. The Lord therefore says in Bhagavad Gita 8:16, Abrahma Bhuvanaloka Punaravar Tinorijna Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanma Na Vedyate. Even though we elevate ourselves to the highest planetary system by the scientific advancement of knowledge or by the religious principles of life, great sacrifices and fruit of activities, at the time of dissolution, these higher planetary systems and life on them will be destroyed. In this verse, the words Isha Vidhvam Siddha Shisham indicate that all such blessings will be destroyed by the Supreme Controller. We will not be protected. Our bodies, either in this planet or on another planet, will be destroyed. And again, we will have to remain for millions of years in an unconscious state within the body of Mahavishnu. And again, when the creation is manifested, we have to take birth in different species of life and begin our activities. Therefore, we should not be satisfied simply by a promotion to the higher planetary systems. We should try to get out of the material cosmic manifestation, go to the spiritual world, and take shelter of the Supreme Person of Godhead. That is our highest achievement. We should not be attracted by anything material, or higher or lower, but should consider them all on the same level. Our real engagement should be in inquiring about the real purpose of life and rendering devotional service to the Lord. Thus, we will be eternally blessed in our spiritual activities, full of knowledge and bliss. Regulated human civilization promotes dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. In human society, there must be religion. Without religion, human society is only animal society. Economic development and sense gratification must be based on religious principles. When religion, economic development, and sense gratification are adjusted, liberation from the material birth, death, old age, and disease is assured. In the present age of Kali, however, there is no question of religion and liberation. People have taken interest only in economic development and sense gratification. Therefore, despite sufficient economic development all over the world, dealings in human society have become almost animalistic. When everything becomes grossly animalistic, dissolution takes place. This dissolution is to be accepted as Isha Vidhwam Siddhasham, the Lord's so-called blessings of economic development and sense gratification will be conclusively dissolved by destruction. At the end of this Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as an incarnation of Kalki, and his only business will be to kill all human beings on the surface of the globe. After that killing, another golden age will begin. We should therefore know that our material activities are just like childish play. Children may play on the beach, and the father will sit and watch this childish play. The construction of buildings with sand, the construction of walls, and so many things. But finally, the father will ask the children to come home. Then everything is destroyed. Persons who are too much addicted to the childish activities of economic development and sense gratification are sometimes especially favored by the Lord when He destroys their construction of these things. It is said by the Lord, Yasyaham manu grihnami harishyeta dhanam sanahi. The Lord told Yudhishthira Maharaj that his special favor is shown to his devotee when he takes away all the devotee's material opulence. Generally, therefore, it is experienced that Vaishnavas are not very opulent in the material sense. When a Vaishnava, pure devotee, tries to be materially opulent and at the same time desires to serve the Supreme Lord, his devotional service is checked. The Lord, in order to show him a special favor, destroys the so-called economic development of material opulences. Thus, the devotee, being frustrated in his repeated attempts at economic development, ultimately takes solid shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. This kind of action may also be accepted as Isha Vidhwam Siddhasham, whereby the Lord destroys one's material opulences, but enriches one in spiritual understanding. In the course of our preaching work, we sometimes see that materialistic persons come to us and offer their obeisances to take blessings, which means they want more and more material opulences. If such material opulences are checked, such persons are no longer interested in offering obeisances to the devotees. Such materialistic persons are always concerned about their economic development. They offer obeisances to saintly persons or the Supreme Lord and give something in charity for preaching work with a view that they will be rewarded with further economic development. However, when one is sincere in his devotional service, the Lord obliges the devotee to give up his material development and completely surrender unto Him. Because the Lord does not give blessings of material opulence to His devotees, people are afraid of worshipping Lord Vishnu. Because they see that the Vaishnavas or worshippers of Lord Vishnu are poor and superficial material opulences. Such materialistic persons, however, get immense opportunity for economic development by worshipping Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the husband of the goddess Durga, the proprietor of this universe. By the grace of Lord Shiva, a devotee gets the opportunity to be blessed by the goddess Durga. Ravana, for example, was a great worshipper and devotee of Lord Shiva, and in return, he got all the blessings of goddess Durga. And so much so that his whole kingdom was constructed of golden buildings. In Brazil, in this present age, huge quantities of gold have been found. And from historical references in the Puranas, we can guess safely that this was Ravana's kingdom. His kingdom was, however, destroyed by Lord Ramachandra. By studying such incidents, we can understand the full meaning of Isha Vidham Siddhasham. The Lord does not bestow material blessings upon the devotees, for they may be entrapped again in this material world by continuous birth, death, old age, and disease. Due to materialistic opulences, persons like Ravana become puffed up for sense gratification. Ravana even dared kidnap Sita, who was both the wife of Lord Ramachandra and the goddess of fortune, thinking that he would be able to enjoy the pleasure potency of the Lord. But actually, by such action, Ravana became Vidwamsaka, or ruin. At the present moment, human civilization is too much attached to economic development and sense gratification, and is therefore nearing the path of ruination. Om Agyanathamrandhasya Gnanjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadahmayam Dadati Swagrantikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindha Bimabhanta Jagatpate Gopisa Gopaka Kanta Radha Namosite Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutrevi Pranavami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Shone Varvasa Teres Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasai Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Wow, there's so much within that purport. It went over a lot in a lot of detail, so I'll try to do what I can to say something of it. But yeah, it's really nicely covered. But one of the main points within this shloka and within this purport was this idea of both higher states of life and lower states of life not really having too much value. Oftentimes in life we like to value so many high things in life and call it a blessing. Oh, I was born in a great family, or oh, I have so much money, I have this, I have that. And then we may even look down at people who don't have such things, or who we view as ugly, or any other things like this. And in one sense, they can be blessings if they help us in our service to Krishna. If we're born in a rich family, then things are a little bit more easy, that we can take the time to focus on Krishna if we have that kind of mindset. But that's not always the case. However, both these blessings and distresses are ultimately due to be destroyed at some point in time. And both of them could be a curse and a blessing as well. Let's say on beautiful. Now that may mean that I get puffed up and start thinking other people are ugly. I start getting real focused on my body. I look very nice. I gotta look sweet. Maybe I become a model even, and now I get caught up in this whole world surrounded around my body. Or let's say I'm rich and I spent all my time trying to get money and I got all this money and now I get puffed up because of that too. I can do whatever I want. I can spend as much money on sense gratification as I want. So in this way, what most people would view as a blessing actually becomes a curse. Now, if we look at what people may consider like a lower state of life or a curse, let's say, for example, I'm ugly now. Now, if I'm trying to be, maybe I'm trying to be renunciate, maybe that might come in handy. I won't have so many women or men trying to come after me and seduce me or anything like that. Or if I'm poor and something like that, then I don't have so much money that's going to distract me and make me want to get all these different things offered within the material world. So in this way, what most people would view as a curse can also be a very high blessing. But ultimately, none of them are permanent. And it had mentioned here in the purport, the verse from Bhagavad Gita 8:16, which I looked into exactly which that one was. And the translation is, from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. While one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So, oftentimes maybe we have the idea of trying to get the best in our life. That's not necessarily bad if it's in relation to Krishna. But if we're just trying to do good and all that, just be pious, you're getting all this pious credit. So there's 3 types of karma, which I'm sure you all know, but we'll go over it again. There's karma, which is pious karma. There's vikarma, which is bad karma. That's normally what we think of when we hear about karma, is bad karma, results for our bad action. And there's akarma, meaning no karma, absolutely none. So akarma obviously comes from doing pious deeds, vikarma from bad, and akarma from doing activities that are in line with your constitutional position as an eternal servant of Krishna, of the Lord. So when you gain any of the other types of karma, whether it's karma or vikarma, you have to take on a body that can pay out the credit from that, to pay out the results of the fruit from those actions. So it's not enough just to do good in the world. We gotta do beyond good. We gotta do things on a transcendental platform. We gotta do things in relation to Krishna, give Krishna to people. And when we view these different things, whether good or bad within this material world, ultimately, in one sense, they can be the same because they both are material quality, they both leave us here in the material world. All generally it is different states of consciousness. Just like you can't really say that there's such thing as cold, for instance. When we measure on a temperature scale, we're measuring how much heat or how much of the absence of heat. We're not measuring the cold necessarily. So in the same way, the good and bad in the world is generally just how much knowledge these people have and how much that absence of that knowledge there is. So they're all the same quality. and we should strive higher than that. And later on, within here, it also talked about how those who do not escape the material world because they're paying out the different types of karma, whether karma or vidkarma. Ultimately, once the dissolution of the universe happens, the cosmic dissolution, then they all end up in Mahavishnu at the end, and they're there in an unconscious state for millions of years, just to end up having to take birth once more once creation begins once again. And then later on, it starts talking about four main things within human society. So, regular human society promotes dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, the only thing that really separates human life from animal life is the fact that we have the ability to think in a religious manner and be able to relate with God. Otherwise, you just got eating, sleeping, mating, and defending or fearing, which can be offered in any other forms of life. We all eat, we all sleep, we all mate, we all defend. Dog or animal has a house, we have a house, a partner, all these different things. It's all offered in other species of life. But what the human form has, instead of just being conscious, we have self-consciousness. We're able to really reflect and think on a deeper level. Because the dog's not going to be like, oh wow, that person just called me this word, and now my Saturday is ruined. I think tomorrow I'm gonna go do this to him. They don't have that type of consciousness. They can't think on that level. But we have that ability to really think on a deeper level, but not all the time do we use it for that. A lot of times we get caught up in using it for so many mundane things, mainly just how do I have a better life? How do I get better sense gratification? And if that's not what we're debating, then we're probably reflecting on how miserable everything in the world is, how miserable our whole life is because we can't enjoy the way we want. We came here because we want to try to be the supreme controllers and the supreme enjoyers of our own world. And here in the material world, you don't really get the opportunity. So they get caught up with this. But the human form of life is so that we can really reflect, why am I suffering? Why am I taking birth? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to go to work to 9 to 7 and all that? Constantly just end up dying at the end. What's the point? Why do I have to get old? And this is actually the start of our human life. Human life begins when you start asking these questions. So we should strive to have these thoughts of what is my connection with the Lord. And this is human society, civilized human society. But as mentioned within this purport, at the present moment, that's not really what it's based on. Now, traditionally, basically in every culture around the world, you just go back even like 100 years, 200 years ago, a lot of these societies had at least some basis of religious life within their society, within their government, within all aspects of their life, school or otherwise. And they lived piously through religion, as I have mentioned. When religion, okay, never mind, I can't find it right now. Anyways, Yeah, right here. Economic development and sense gratification must be based on religious principles. So, economic development, religious principles. Now, does this mean that we just go to a church every Sunday and then, go get a bunch of money and spend it on our own sense gratification? No. Uh, we learned that economic development actually means you're doing your work to maintain your life and your family within the material world, but to use that money in Krishna service, because nothing is ours. We're talking about Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She's always fleeting constantly from here to there, but there's only one place that you can always find her, and that's at the lotus feet of Narayana, the lotus feet of the Lord. So if we're not engaging her in the service of the Lord, then she's going to always be fleeting. So economic development means to use money in the service of Krishna, whether that's offering a big portion of that to the temple, to the devotees, or maybe the programs or things like this. And it talks about sense gratification based on religious principles. And we know back in more Vedic times, people used to, when they wanted to sense gratify, they wanted certain results, they had a process through the Vedas that they worked through. They had Karma Kanda. If they wanted to go to the moon planet to enjoy this way, or they wanted to have a beautiful wife, or they wanted to have this many beautiful children, strong children, or whatever, there was a way through the scriptures that they were able to do so. That isn't really the case anymore. We don't know the proper ways to say the mantras. We don't have the opulent ways to perform these sacrifices. Excuse me. So now that life is like this in our everyday life, we see that we're basically living like animals nowadays in the material world. We're not focused on anything to do with religion. We're only focused on economic development and sense gratification, which go hand in hand. If I have enough money, then I can sense gratify it in any way I want. And even if I get in trouble doing so, if I have enough money, then I could pay off and get away with a lot of it. So we spend this life uselessly. We use it without having any religious idea within our life. And so, in this way, we're actually lost in playing like a video game, for example. I mentioned here, like a child playing in like sand castles and all out on the beach. But like a video game or something like that. You got like this character you're playing, and maybe you're trying to like really make this character really cool. You try to get him like the most amount of money or the biggest things, the best weapons, whatever kind of game it is. You're trying to get him like the best things, and you start like identifying with this person. Just like we're doing right now with these bodies in this position. I'm Mr. So and so. I'm from somewhere. This, that. So, they go on playing this game and they start trying to build up this whole life as if they're identifying with it. And they forget about themselves. And then, maybe some brother or whatever comes and they yank out that cord while they're playing, and all that stuff was lost. All that progress that they made is gone, absolutely gone. Or maybe they just went in and deleted it. So in the same way, we may strive to have this amazing life, right? We may strive, okay, if I have enough money, then I could buy this nice 2-story house. I could really maintain everyone in my family. We'll have the best cars. We'll have the best food. And you're just trying to really make this life your all in all. And you figure it out. And then if I live on, then I have a better life up in the spiritual world, which obviously isn't the case if you're not using it for Krishna. So, they build up this whole life, and just like that little brother that pulled the cord, deleted that whole progress in the game, they will lose everything that they built in their life. They can't take this money, they can't take their family, they can't take all these things. And then they're going to have to do it again. There'll be rebirth, and if they didn't learn the lesson, they'll make the same mistake of trying to really live out this life, best sense gratification, best economic development, gotta have the best of everything. And we've all made that mistake so many lifetimes, and we're not always granted the ability to actually do these things. It's actually in our karma how much money and things like this we're going to have in our life, how much happiness and distress we have is already situated for us, unless we become a devotee. So if you're not a devotee and you're striving real hard to make all this money, it may be that you don't actually end up making as much as you want. You may end up working hard, long hours, and even if you get that money, maybe you get robbed, or maybe you end up in debt somehow, so you lose all that money instantly. So it might not even be in your cards to be rich anyways. So we build up on this false idea of making everything right in this life, making everything perfect, when in reality the only way to make things perfect is you come to Krishna. Now a lot of people may be afraid of this because, as mentioned in this purport, Vishnu worship, Krishna worship, a lot of times the devotees are not that rich. I mean, sometimes, but in comparison to like Lord Shiva's worshippers, as was mentioned, generally Vaishnavas aren't as rich. Is that a bad thing? No, not necessarily. When we don't have so much money and we have just the amount that may be needed to survive, to keep the body and soul together, then it's a lot easier for us to carry out our service without thinking about wanting sense gratified. It allows us to be like, okay, this is Krishna's and all this. There's one part, if I can find it right quick. No, never mind. Anyways, okay, right here. However, when one is in sincere devotional service, the Lord obliges the devotee to give up his material development and completely surrender under him. So, and maybe he takes away all these things just so that we can focus on him. We may have everything we ever wanted in life and have the best things. And we may think about Krishna from time to time, but he's not our main focus. We call him Lord, but we don't treat him like the Lord. He's like a secondary person, like, okay, I'll come to you when I want to, or I'll come to you when I'm older. Some people, they say, why worship Krishna now? Why worship God now? Why not wait till you're older in life when you've done everything? So obviously that doesn't always work. You don't even always end up living to see the next moment. But people think like this. They put them in the background and like, okay, we'll come back to you, God. And anyway, so when we're all caught up and having all these things, Krishna may favor us and be kind to us and take away so much of that. That way we have no choice but to look at him and be like, okay, now you're the Lord of my life. Now you're my main focus. Now I'll dedicate things to you, because what else do I have within this material world? Everything's been taken from me that had any value to me. Even in such extreme cases as Narada Muni, before he became Narada Muni, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that his mother ended up dying. And instead of seeing it as such a bad thing, he saw it as a chance to fully devote himself to Krishna. So even in the extremes of cases, we can try to give it our all to Krishna and realize, okay, well, in reality, what all do you have in this material world? You came in with nothing but being born within this material body, but this material body eventually is also going to have to go. There's nothing you get to keep within this material world. Because this isn't your world. This isn't even where you're from. This isn't Goloka. This isn't Vaikuntha. This isn't any of that. You have nothing to do here. What are we doing here? We spend all this time trying to still be the lords of our lives, even in the slightest aspects mentally. Even if it's just name, fame, profit, or adoration, we're still seeking to enjoy. We're still trying to squeeze the last bit of the already squeezed lemon of life. And there's nothing here. So we should spend our life focusing on what's reality. Reality is that which is consistent. The material world is always temporary, everything's temporary and always changing. One thing exists for some time and then it's gone at another moment. Even our own thoughts, our own ways of life, how we used to live versus how we're living now, everything's constantly changing. So we can tell that this isn't the ultimate truth, this isn't the absolute truth. What is the absolute truth? The absolute truth is we're part and parcel of Krishna. We fall into the material world and we've lost our way. We forgot who we are. We forgot that we're trying to serve Him and make Him the love of our life. So we get caught up. But we should take this life to try to give it to Him. You've given so many births to Krishna, so many births of my bad. So many births of mind, so many births of this material energy, constantly serving your senses, serving other people's senses, just all for us to stay within the material world and have to do it again. We build these sandcastles just for them to fall down again, and rebuild them and fall down again. That's crazy. That's literally the definition of crazy. The definition of crazy is to do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And we've been doing that over and over, expecting, okay, this life, I'll have the perfect life. So we should try to give this one life to Krishna. What do you have to lose? Nothing here is yours anyway. Not the money, not the house, not the kids, not your friends, not your family, not even your own body. Nothing is yours. So use it for Christian service. It's not a bad thing to have all these things. It's only a bad thing when you start to see yourself as the appropriator of these things, as a supreme controller, as a supreme enjoyer of all these things within your life. So give this life to Krishna. Quit trying to live separately and enjoy his energy separately. Just as it mentioned Ravana did with Sita. He grabbed Sita and thought, I can enjoy Krishna's energy without Krishna, Ramachandra's energy without Ramachandra. And we're doing the same thing. We're all got a Ravana type of mind. Okay, let me use Krishna's energy for my own satisfaction. Without him though, I don't want him. And even if he is around, okay, let him do his thing, let me do mine. Krishna, I see you exist, I know you exist. Let me enjoy what you got. You got stuff and I want to enjoy it. But that's actually not our position. We'll never find true happiness in that way. Because we're the enjoy. We're not the enjoyers. We're the enjoyer. Prakriti. We're the enjoyer. Whereas Krishna is Purusha, the enjoyer. So we should always keep in mind our position. Otherwise, we'll end up just like Ravana and become Vidhamsita. We'll become ruined. We'll end up taking more births. We'll end up back in Mahavishnu in an unconscious state for millions of years, and then take birth again just to do it over and over again for eternity until you decide, okay, this isn't where I want to be anymore. This isn't my life. This isn't who I am. This isn't what reality is. What am I doing here? But anyways, I think this is probably a good spot to stop at. But is there any questions or comments? Yes, sir, sure.
Okay, so both Sanat Kumar in the verse and Prabhupada in the purport, they're pitching, it seems like a hard sell for a conditioned soul like me. They're pitching that, look, don't try for these things to elevate, because it's all temporary. At the time of dissolution, I mean, we're talking, you can't even imagine how long away that is. It sounds like a good deal. You just keep doing good karma and you get a heavenly elevation, and we just, keep doing that stuff. And, this other stuff is just impossibly long away. So, is that a good preaching strategy for a conditioned soul? I mean, you've been hammering on it in your talk, but boy, it seems like somebody who's really attached to Vedic rituals, a karmakandi, a real good karmakandi. And okay, but ooh, I can birth after birth. I can have, I can have good body. I can have good looks, good money, good spouse, good education, and the other stuff. I just can't even relate to the other stuff. What do you say to that?
So you're asking if we're telling them they got birth after birth, you think that they may still want to enjoy birth after birth?
Yeah, if they know how to play the system, if they know how to be a good karmakandi.
Well, even then, they're always going to have to face birth, death, old age, disease, and three material miseries. So even though they're trying to avoid all these things, they're still going to have to face miseries.
Most of the time they'll enjoy it, that's what they'll say. Most of the time, if I know how to do pious activities. And it's like the Birlas. Why do they build temples? Because they know it's good karma. Not because they're especially saintly or anything. They're exploiting people, with their cars and their machines and everything. But they know that if I just do this punya, that I'll get this great result, I mean, I am playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but it seems hard to penetrate that. Although someone like Prabhupada, like in person, he's laying down the law here philosophically, in the purports. But Prabhupada could zing people like that, show them with some wit and wisdom, just very dramatically how everything is so foolish that you say. Nature is going to give the rebuttal.
I was going to say that it's very unlikely that people perform karmakanda right in the first place. That King Riga is more qualified than any of us. King Riga is more qualified than any of us, and still he messed up bad enough to become a lizard. So what to speak of someone like me or you trying to perform karmakanda? So
that was a benediction. You have to see Krishna. That was special.
Ultimately, but the example is still there for our rectification. That King Riga, mistakes in karmakanda lead to these disastrous results, and you see that also in throughout the Bhagavatam. There's different disastrous results of those performing polluted activities. Throughout the Bhagavatam, there's different stories of disastrous results.
Yeah.
So.
And also, Lord Chaitanya said, you can't really, that's what you're saying, you can't do it like karma gyan yoga.
Yeah.
It's true, you won't be able, you'll mess up.
We don't even have the qualification to perform real karmakanda in this age, because we're already karmakanda means essentially being at least in the mode of goodness a lot of the time, and we're not even, we're not coming off the sinful platform. Breaking.
And Lord Chaitanya has given something so easy and happy, Kevalaya and Naganda. So forget all this trying to cross the T's, dot the I's, just hand in hand.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, Nick, you had something?
Yeah, thanks for class.
Oh, not even.
I was listening in the Tulsi house. I know we're pretty much out of time. I'll just say quickly, I read something last night that reminded me of this. And the first part of it was really sweet too. It's when the Pandavas are going up the mountain, when they've left the kingdom at the end of the Mahabharata, and they're all passing away one by one because of their grief of the other one passing away. There's also a dog that's with them, and Indra comes on his chariot, and he says to come with him to the heavenly planets. He doesn't even have to give up his body. And he says, well, this dog is taking shelter of me, so I can't go. And then the dog turns into Dhammaraj and says, you've passed the test as the most beautiful devotee. And so then he goes on the chariot with Indra, and he sees Duryodhana there, like on a golden throne, and he sees all the warriors that were in the battle, and he doesn't want anything to do with it, even though, it's the heavenly planet, it's so beautiful. And then he's taken to a hellish planet where it's described as, it's just really gross, basically. And, he's like, why am I here? And then he hears the call of his brothers in Draupadi, and he, even though he wants to go, when he hears that, he thinks, they say, you're giving a cool breeze, you're helping us, be here. So he doesn't want to leave when he hears that, showing another amazing quality of him being a devotee, and not really caring where he's at, he just wants devotion, And then Indra, and I think some other demigods show up, and it turns into a heavenly planet on that hellish planet. And they tell him how he was there just because he lied on the battlefield when Krishna wanted to play that trick to be able to.
He hesitated to lie. He didn't want to lie.
Yeah.
That's why he had to have the vision of hell.
Oh, he hesitated. Oh, that's interesting.
There's the devotee version and there's the Karmakandi version. The devotees say he went to hell because he hesitated to lie.
So the conclusion in this summary of the Mahabharata is he goes back to the heavenly planet where he sees Arjuna worshiping Krishna, and he thinks that I think he's speaking to Narada Muni, and he asks him, how long am I going to have to be here? And he says, pretty much you've done endless pious credits, it's going to be a long time, but because you're a close associate of Krishna, you and your Pandava brothers are going to be going because he's constantly performing his activities in the material world. And so it ends with him just looking at Krishna in such fulfillment and happiness that's his supreme Lord, and he's going to be traveling with him everywhere. And it just reminds me of what you're talking about, heaven or hell, doesn't matter, the devotee just wants to serve the devotees and serve Krishna however possible, and that's all that matters.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Do you mind if we say this for a breakfast?
That's cool.
Okay. Alright, I don't want to hold everyone back. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.